Well, no, it's not working.
Everybody's gonna tell who's speaking.
No, we're not gonna go ahead if we don't have the videos.
Oh, it has to be, yeah, we have to have that.
Tell them that we're coming.
There we go, we got it. Okay, Brittany?
Yay.
Vice Chair, can you confirm? You can hear me? Great. Good morning. We are on the record in case number 2021-00382, electronic investigation into the wholesale water rates charged by the City of Carlisle to Sharpsburg Water District and Nicholas County Water District pursuant to KRS 278-200, KRS 278-160, KRS 278-180, KRS 278-190, and 807 KR 5011. My name is Kent Chandler. I'm chairman of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. I'm joined today virtually by Commission Vice Chair Amy Cubbage and Commissioner Marianne Butler. At this time, I caution attendees to please set your cellular phones to silent mode or turn them off. Due to the current state here in Kentucky, the Commission is hosting this hearing via video conferencing. I would offer, in addition to normal courtesies regarding cell phones, that you do the following. Please mute your microphone if you are not speaking. Attorneys, when interjecting, state your name so that the record is clear. If you use a phone for audio and a computer for video, turn off the computer audio. If you are in a room with several people on their own computers, please turn off the computer audio for all but one computer. If another participant is in a nearby office, close the doors between the offices. Please use wired headphones or wired earbuds if you are needing to use personal devices. Keep a charger nearby in case your battery runs low. And finally, and most importantly, please alert the Commission if you are experiencing technology failure that prevents your participation at any time in the proceedings. Attorneys may contact staff at their previously provided contact information. The hearing today is for the purpose of taking evidence on the wholesale water rates charged by the City of Carlisle to Sharpsburg Water District and Nicholas County Water District. At this time, we'll have an entry of appearance of counsel. I ask, given the complexity of the case and trying to do this virtually, that as attorneys make their entry of appearance, that they also indicate what witnesses they may have with them today or may call today. For the City of Carlisle,
I'm Henry Watson from the law firm of Watson Law Firm here in Paris. With me today is Mayor Clark, who will be testifying, as well as Ricky Moore, who runs the water plant.
so Mr. Watson, it's a little hard to hear you. I can hear you, but I don't know that our court reporter can. Let me see if we can turn our volume up a bit as well.
Is there an adjustment we can make on our end? I'm not too tech savvy.
You may be able to just to get the computer or whatever you all are using, the microphone a little closer to you may help.
It's on top of the screen there. I don't know.
Well, I guess we can hear you. We can hear you okay. I guess I would just ask to the chagrin of probably anybody close to you that throughout the hearing today, you all just speak as loudly as possible.
Roger that.
All right, thank you. For Sharpsburg Water District.
I'm Earl Rogers, attorney for Sharpsburg Water District, and also on the call video is Gail Haney, Matt, Sharpsburg Water.
Okay. For Nicholas County Water District.
Thank you, Sally. Hudsonville, representing Nicholas County. Silas Cleaver, as the board chairman, is on, and I believe, Mr. Cleaver, you can correct me, but I believe the office manager, Monica Pryor, Pryor, and all the commissioners are there in the same room with you, Mr. Cleaver. Is that correct? Shake your head. Yes.
We know we got Mr. We know we got Mr. Cleaver. We'll see about the rest later, Mr. Talley.
Everybody is here, but they
All right, thank you, Mr. Cleaver. And then for commission staff.
Brittany Koenig.
Good morning, Justin Young, Commission Staff Recruiter, PSC.
And Justin Young remotely.
All right, thank you. Mr. Watson, it's my understanding that public notice of this hearing has been given, or at least has been given in the Carlisle newspaper. Is that correct?
That's correct, as well as the city's Facebook page. Well, seems like there was one other place. Oh, the city's website and the city's Facebook page and the Carlisle Mercury.
Okay, I just asked you at some point after this hearing, and it's not a rush, because I think we have a copy of it, if you would file the tear sheet from the newspaper, just the actual, what the newspaper ran, into the record so that we have evidence of it.
Yes, sir.
All right, and at this time, staff council, do we have any outstanding motions?
Chairman, there was a responsive brief filed by Mr. Watson late yesterday afternoon. I believe those can all be addressed in the final order.
All right, that's fine. We'll take those under advisement, and except for filing the that brief. Is there any motions we need to take up before the hearing this morning? Mr. Talley, Mr. Watson, Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Commissioner, I'm not sure how to address you. Do you prefer Mr. Commissioner or Your Honor or?
Whatever you address me as, I guarantee I've been called worse. Chairman will work, but Commissioner will be fine.
Yes.
Oh, we've lost your audio, Mr. Watson. Hold on one second. All right, give it another try here. I don't know what, you're not coming through. Can somebody else speak? Mr. Talley or Mr. Rogers, can you all try to speak? Okay, so my apologies, we're having audio problems here in the room. I think you all can all hear each other. We cannot hear anything anyone is saying in the hearing room. You would think we're 18 months probably on from having our first one of these virtual hearings. We did great, and then it's the technology that continues to fail us. If only our human side is perfectly fine. So let us just take a minute and see if we can get our audio working here. Mr. Rogers, do you mind to try to speak? Still nothing. All right, thank you. We're still looking at it. Can somebody try and see if we can hear you? Commissioner, Vice Chair Cubbage, could you try to? We can't hear anything.
Oh, okay, there's.
Mr. Watson, will you speak up?
Working. We'll try again. Is that any better?
That's much better. We can hear you in the room now.
Excellent.
So you've got a little bit of time now to, you had something you wanted to address before the hearing this morning?
Yes, Your Honor. What brought us here is the filing of a tariff by the city of Carlisle. The water rates in that tariff were agreed to in a meeting with the water district, the Nicholas County Water District, which is the main customer. And the city of the Sharpsburg Water District has filed a pleading in this matter that says they don't object to that tariff. So rather than waste everybody's time on something that seems to be a non-issue, we would move that the tariff be placed in effect in accordance with the rules and regulations of the PSCS to timing on that first point of the tariff itself.
Mr. Rogers, Mr. Talley, do you have, your clients have a position on that proposal?
This is Mr. Rogers on behalf of Sharpsburg Water District. Our position is we have no objection to the revised tariff. Our only issue is some billings that occurred prior to the new rate in the tariff that we would ask to be refunded, which is a de minimis amount, approximately $1,600.
Mr. Talley?
The Nicholas Water District has no objection to the new rate. I believe it's $2.02. It is a very fair rate, reasonable, considering all the other wholesale rate. We just would like to be able to pass that on to our customers under the purchase water adjustment. Matter of fact, as Mr. Watson said, the mayor came to one of our meetings and the board went on record at that time approving that rate. We do have a concern about our contract and the volume, but that's another issue.
Okay. So at this time, Mr. Watson, we're going to deny your request. This case is not exclusively about the proposed tariff. The opening order specifically noted that the commission intended on investigating whether Carlisle charged, and this is a quote, charged its wholesale customers unauthorized rates in violation of KRS 278-160. And that we would also, this is a quote, the commission will determine whether Carlisle has violated a statute or regulation enforced by the commission or an order entered by the commission. Additionally, Mr. Watson, we've put out data requests over a month ago seeking information in support of the proposed tariff filing. As of yet, we've not received that information from Carlisle. I appreciate that Mr. Talley and Mr. Rogers have not indicated their objection to the proposed increase, but there's not necessarily a mechanism under law in which wholesale customers, by not citing an objection, the rates go into effect. The commission still has to necessarily find that the rates are fair, just, and reasonable, which I think we've been attempting to do by sending you those data requests to the city over 40 days ago. So we're going to continue with the hearing this morning, but if you'd like to note your objection at the out front, it's acknowledged.
Yes, sir. That's what we'd like to do in terms of what we consider a non-issue. As to Mr. Rogers' second point concerning the overcharge, we also in our pleading stipulate that the rate charged the Sharpsburg Water District was pursuant to a city ordinance, which is included in our agreement, that applied a cost of living increase with the July billings every year. It applies to all of the city's utility customers. We understand the position of the commission on such an escalator, and are willing to stipulate that's the source of that, and at such time as, we'll give the Sharpsburg Water District a credit for however long it takes to clear that out, and I'm not sure we've changed that rate since this issue arose. We have. The mayor says we've changed that rate, so it should be a fixed number. In other words, it hadn't continued to increase, and I'm sure if they give us a liquidated number, we can take care of that with credits for water. So
I appreciate that, Mr. Watson. I noticed that in your brief. I guess that was last night that I read that. But that's part of part of what we're seeking here at the hearing today, is to find out when that rate went into effect, how long it was in effect, and what the rate is today. So we will take that up through our director, your director, or cross-examination of the witnesses you brought with you. All right. We have not received any request to provide public comment at this time. I would just note that, as always is the case, public comment may be made in writing to the Public Service Commission on any matter at any time by sending an email to psc.info@ky.gov. We just ask that public comment include your name, your address, and the case number. In this matter, the case number is 2021-00382. Mr. Watson, at this time, are you prepared to call your first witness?
Sir, we can hear from the mayor. He can explain some of the issues that we've had with trying to operate the water plant and provide not only the wholesale customers of Nicholas County and Sharpsburg, but also all of our retail customers, some of which are inside, most of which are inside the city limits, some of which are outside the city limits. I assume you'll want to swear the mayor.
Yeah, so if you'll call the mayor, I'll swear him in, and then I'll let you introduce him if you'd like. Provide short background, CV, anything that you would like, how long he's been in the position, whatever you prefer, and then if you want to conduct some short direct examination, you're more than welcome to do so before tendering him for cross. So if you don't mind to call the mayor.
Mr. Mayor? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ronnie Clark. Resident is 110 Sycamore Street in Carlisle, Kentucky. City Office 107 East Chestnut.
Okay.
All
All right.
Is that okay? Is that loud enough? Or do you get that on the record?
What was that, Mr. Watson?
Is the mayor coming through on the record in terms of being able to hear him? And
Yeah, I was just, that was what the court reporter was asking me. If he could speak up and do it one more time, as loud as you can.
I live at 110 Sycamore Street in Carlisle, Kentucky. Our office is 107 East Chestnut in Carlisle, Kentucky.
Okay, and the name one more time?
Ronnie Clark.
Okay, thank you. It's okay, we'll get it for you. We got that. All right, Mr. Watson, you may ask.
Mr. Mayor, if you could explain to the assembly here how long you've been the mayor and under, I know it's been on and off, and we tried to map this the other night and didn't get very far, but at least you can share with them where we are this morning.
In about 17 years in city business, I guess you'd call it. During those 17 years, it's been off and on, but again, 17 years, we've always faced the same problems with infrastructure. And one of the big ones has always been the water plant. We're dealing with a water plant here that has not been upgraded. Last upgrade came along in about 1953. We pumped from a Licking River. Pump station has been down to the same one the whole time. Naturally outdated, aged, same with the water plant. outdated, but we are still making, clean water. That plant cannot sustain running 24/7 at the capacity it could 50 years ago. You have storage issues, you have pump issues, list goes on and on. And along the way, due to not having increases in rates, we actually lose money on the water that we're providing to Sharpsburg as it stands now and Nicholas County Water District. I'm actually propping up the cost of water through our residential customers. The PSC in 1994 recognized the contract between, I'll use the Nicholas County Water District. The PSC stamped off on that in September 1994, and in the language there, we had a modification of rates that we would able to adjust their rate by ordinance from time to time. We passed an ordinance that said that we would only raise the rates if we're losing on utilities, passed on to all customers, which means residential to commercial customers such as the water district. Our residential people actually take a bigger hit because of the amount of the cost of living for their rate versus what we were charging the water district. So there've been very minimal increases that have been passed on to the water district. This time we're talking about over the course of what Sharpsburg is saying, we've got a little around $1,000. And again, we're in the red. So I don't want to gouge anybody. I think Nicholas County stand up and say we sit down together and this is what I need to be able to be profitable, to sustain what we're doing and look to the future on building things. Right now, as we talk, we're working on a new pump station for Lincoln River, working on a new water plant, and we're looking for line extensions. All those things affect not only the city customers, but the Nicholas County Sharpsburg Water District customers, and it's only improvement to those services that we're after. And along the way, yes, we need an increase in revenue to be able to pay our indebtedness. So again, I want to help everybody here. At times, because things change. When the contract was originally written, they were meant to 4 million gallons. We got 4 million gallons. That's all we really need. We're not expecting that, but with growth, expansion of systems, that number continuously goes up, which is great, not just for the city, but for the community, because again, it means housing and more customers, hopefully more profit. But when you lose, it's a no-win. To do a full-blown study on the rate increases, and part of the problem that I had over the last 8 years, was I left office, and for 7 years that I was on, went on 9, the city failed to do annual audits, which were required by law. So I really couldn't do this until we had a firm handle on the audits being caught up to date, which they are, and our true expenditures. So again, I want to help everybody coming and going, but I need to be able to not have to subsidize the expenditure of water through a rate increase for just the people in town. It's a share or what, you know. So again, at times we're pushed to the limit from timing on withdrawals. And again, everybody has towers, has pumps. At times when both entities kick on at the same time, or if one entity kicks on for a 24, 36-hour period and doesn't let up, our fire protection goes to zero. It pumps us down to nothing. We can't sustain it. We can't keep up. And then our fire protection from our residents in town are gone. At the same time, that fire protection rating for those people in the county that depend on our water to fight fire is also gone. So between the two water districts, I will say we're working better than we've ever worked together, and they understand our position as far as fire protection to be able to run pumps and provide water. If you have a leak, it needs to be fixed. Not a week later, it needs to be fixed. So again, this is about money, and if we do a rate study today, $60,000. Okay, I'm going to break that down into every customer you got, whether it's city, county, or what, your district, and we'll be back to asking for their percentage on a rate increase from you all again, rather than take a little bit of a hit every year at the cost of living increase. that would be less. And at that point, I wouldn't be in a position that, okay, we need to come back and ask for 20 cents, 40 cents because we just put in a new plant or we just put in a new pump line. So some of this to me is just goes way over my head. On everything else we do, whether you work for the federal government, work for the state government, you turn around and you're able to receive a cost of living increase in your pay, but we can't pass one on based on our expenses. It's ludicrous to me. I can't understand it for the world.
Mr. Mayor, in terms of when the cost of living increase was applied to the Charlottesville Water District, do you know when that started?
It started in July of 20. So it actually slid along that long. And again, I'm trying to replace meters that's been in the ground too long. So our wholesale numbers, that number that they're getting may be right, may be wrong, and because of COVID, the situation with being able to get supplies from pipes, the meters, to whatever, it really slowed it down. We ended that, it's gone on for about a year. So again, after they objected to that, and it hadn't been brought to our attention until we had asked for a rate increase. So again, that's something that was done, and hey, it happened, yes. And we have to pay it back. I guess we have to pay it back. But again, I'm here to try to do whatever I can for everybody. Everybody needs water. I need to sell it. They need to sell it. And at the same time, when we made these contracts, they were meant to sell within a defined area. Nicholas County would be selling to Nicholas County. I didn't know we would situate with any water district that are buying our water and re-wholesaling to another district. Which is, to me, is another situation where, okay, now 4 million gallon contract goes to an 8, or our 100,000 a day goes to 200,000. So to me, you jump past your point of what you're supposed to get. And if that turns the situation, then am I faced with overtime costs? Am I faced with more chemicals? Yes. Am I faced with this, that, and the other? So I just want a fair shake for us, the water districts, and every customer that we're all serving. Got it?
Mr. Moore, do you think you have anything to add to?
We'll wait, Mr. Watson. We've only got the mayor sworn in at this point. We'll come back around for the remainder of the witnesses. Thank you. Do you have any additional questions you'd like to ask the mayor?
Not at this time, Your Honor. We hope to be able to provide the data request that the commission has made of us. We're kind of pedaling as fast as we can. If it's not painfully obvious, I don't really speak PSC that well. This is not something that we do as a matter of course at our firm. Obviously, I'm familiar with it, having been general counsel for the Kentucky Municipal League before it was the League of Cities, and worked with Carlisle and other cities that have had issues like this before, but not directly. Frankly, we attempted to obtain PSC savvy counsel and were unable to so do. We're not really sure why. I think it might have something to do with the volume of cases that you've got over there. As I understand it, if we're number 382 starting in September, then you're probably up around 500 now. So I can see why we had a problem obtaining counsel. And for that, I apologize in terms of not being as savvy about this as we could. We will attempt to get the information as quickly as we can regarding that. And if anybody has any questions of the mayor, be glad to have him answer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Watson. We're almost at 470 cases, just to complete your interest there. And you're not the only person in the world that has problems finding counsel, so do we. Ms. Koenig, Mr. Young, do you all have any questions for the mayor?
I do have a few questions, Chairman.
Please proceed.
Mayor, you say you've been with the city for 17 years. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done for the city during that time period?
At approximately 15 years ago, we had a water plant come to the city, probably a new water plant. And as the nature of the beast is, sometimes you're loved by people, sometimes you're hated, and sometimes you're here, and sometimes you're gone. I leave office and that plant was shot down the drain. It was engineered, funding was in place, and we wouldn't be talking about this probably today so much. But again, I leave office, it's gone. I'm back to the point, the same way with the pump station. We had a pump station go down last year. Both water districts were aware of it. That pump station went down for approximately 45 days. During that 45 days, we were limited by other means as far as trying to pump water away. So, like I said, the master plan is pump station, a new water plant, and be able to provide water further than we are now. In other words, make more. I'm one of those, when I came back in this last time 3 years ago, Kentucky American was trying to buy our water plant out. And I very firmly said no. I look forward to the day that you come back and I can sell you water at the price that we need and help you in the way we can. And I still hold to that we need a water plant in our area to provide not just to us, but to other entities. Our quality of our water has been maintained very well. We've been blessed with the Licking River from the point that when we process it, it comes out clean. If it wasn't, we would have had more issues now than we can even think about as far as making the quality water that passed test. With wastewater, that's another issue. We're working on wastewater. State EPA comes pretty hard on wastewater. We're in the process of upgrading lines there. The operation there is really tough. Again, meeting all the standards that the state passed on, not just us, but water districts to every entity, whether it's sewer, trash, water, we own our own trash. I pass on a cost of living increase there to the customers. Some of those are in the county, some of them are in the city, but the ones we pick up, they get a cost of living increase. Again, if we have a problem, we take care of it. 911. We run the 911 not just for the city, but for the county. And we do have a tariff on per meter. And the water districts, they collect that tariff and they pay us. But again, we're subsidizing that even with the tariff that we get from cell phones and from the meters. We still lose money on that. We lose approximately $100,000 a year on 911 calls. And nothing here, pointing the finger at anybody, but better than half the calls are outside the city. So again, I'm here to work with whoever. We're a small community. We're a small community that still has a lot of common sense in it. And I appreciate that. And we're here to try to do everything we can to make our life go a little bit better. We're not blessed with a lot of industrial base. Right now, we're having a growth. And I've said it for years, the growth is coming through the county through more housing. So again, that means more water customers. So they're going to need more valuable water. I know that. They know that. We just got to be able to get to the point that we can provide that water and not extend our system where it blows apart. And we have none. So again, I want to help everybody that I can and do everything we can. And 3 years ago, we were dead broke. City was dead broke. We have a Commonwealth Kentucky over $500,000 in utility taxes that weren't paid to the state. From the past 7 years that I wasn't there, that today I can stand up and say, hey, we're paid out. We're even with the state. Our audits are caught up. Our employees are paid well. Our systems are run to the very best that they can be run to with the situations as far as age, infrastructure. And then along the way, we got hammered, and you all know that's part of the reason we're having this year this way instead of person to person. COVID came along. And then in this last July, we have a flood comes through that wipes out over 100 at-home, home businesses. So again, we're pretty blessed. And I'm sure the water district suffered a little bit when COVID come along because here somebody said, okay, by the way, you can't cut anybody off for non-payment. So it's been a tough year, 3 years, but we're getting through it. Appreciate it.
Thank you, I appreciate your thorough response to that. I'm gonna ask you a few more questions, just as a preemptive to that. If anything I asked you is better addressed by Mr. Moore, just let me know, and I can pass those questions on to him once we get there. It's my understanding that the 1989 and 1993 water purchase agreements, they were relatively similar. They were both for a 40-year term. They set a standard rate at the beginning, and they also had a term that allowed for ongoing modifications. Is that all correct?
That's right, and part of that modification, again, PSC hands off on all these contracts. And that last one, the board of the district, the Nicholas County District, September the 9th, the PSC accepted that, agreement between the two, and in that, along with the other one, there is language that we could increase water as long as it was done on an equal share basis. In other words, if we went up 1% down the cost of living or whatever, it would only be reflected then. Their 1% on the bottom end is a whole lot less than a residential customer, because we upgraded that residential customer, maybe paying $6.60. So if they get a 1% versus $1.27, so again, we're actually paying more than they were because they're value customers.
So let me just ask, Mayor, do you have a copy of that 1993 agreement?
Yes, there was September the 9th, it was effective by the Public Service Commission, effective on September the 9th, 1994. And it's just section 9, section 1, and then it has the public service signing off, stamping off, and I know you probably can't see it, but again.
No, that's fine.
you all-
So do you mind to go to section 5 of that agreement?
Section 5, I have the bottom part.
Mr. Chair, that is your appendix B in the complaint, for lack of a better term.
That initiating order?
Sir?
Is that appendix B to the initiating order? Is that right, Ms. Koenig?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you mind to provide, do you have a copy of that, Mr. Watson?
I do.
Do you mind to provide just that section 5 there? It should be modification of contract to the mayor.
Section 5 of which subsection?
Subsections.
The subsection is entitled modification of contract.
That's under section C, Charlie, of the agreement, mutually agreed between the parties, modification of contract. You've got that, don't you, Mayor?
Yeah.
That's the section 5. Is that what you want to refer to?
That's right, section 5, modification of contract. Do you see that, Mayor?
On the charge version I have in front of me, that provision of this contract pertaining to the scheduled rates to be paid by the purchasers with a modification according with City of Carlisle water rates. Again, that's our rates, that says that we have a right to modify that under the code of ordinance. I put in.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second, Mayor. I haven't asked the question yet. Do you mind to keep reading there? There's a little bit more.
Great.
You stopped at as established from time to time by ordinance, I think.
Yes.
Can you keep reading?
Yes. Based on improvements and benefit purchases, other provisions and contracts may be modified and altered by mutual agreement.
So do you have a line there that starts with any increase or decrease in rates?
Increase and decrease, yes, to be based on the demonstration of increase and decrease in the cost of production, which our ordinance is written to where we only raise the cost of living only when we lose money on whatever utility. We wrote the ordinance, I was mayor when it was done, and it's based on the premises that if trash lost money, we demonstrated that we could increase the price on trash. If water lost money, we could increase water. If sewer lost money, we could increase that cost then.
Well, I appreciate that, but can you demonstrate that the increase that you put through in July by ordinance, can you demonstrate that increase that you've had, I don't know exactly what the percentage was, that July 20 increase, can you show us that you've had that exact same increase in the cost of production of finished water?
Sure, I mean, it's a cost of living, plus I'm offsetting the loss already with revenue on water from our gas system.
But that's a different thing. What I'm asking for is Mr. Watson's wanting to talk about cost of living or CPI adjustments. And what you're saying is, whatever it is the previous year, if we've lost money, our ordinance now says that we can increase it so that we don't lose money in the next year. But it doesn't say anything, the ordinance, what you're saying is about the entirety of the system, right? Salaries and chemicals and power, but also probably insurance and other costs. What I'm asking for is, can you show with financials that the increase that you put through in July is the exact increase in the cost of production of finished water in accordance with the agreement?
With the amount of money that was spent on pumps and everything, yes.
Okay, so that is respectfully the type of information that the commission is seeking in those data requests, are the financials that support the proposed increase. Have you had a chance to review those data requests?
Yeah, I sent it to y'all, we just haven't
Right.
finished.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Mr. Young.
Thank you. It's my understanding, you got exactly what you just said, is that you do raise rates occasionally based on a COLA and a couple other issues and cost of providing services. Anytime you raise rates to your residential clients, you also raise those rates to the wholesale clients.
I have not in the past, this is the first increase I believe either water district received on the cost of living. The people in town, again, when I say people in town, all the customers we serve some that are not in the city, but we serve some that, mostly that are in the city. So all those have been receiving those all along. This is the first one that the water district received. So it was a culture shock, I guess, when we got the bill, say, okay, we got a bit of an increase on water that we never have seen before.
So the follow-up question to that one, so you said it's the first cost of living increase they've received. Have you seen any other increases over the wholesale clients since the 1989 or 1993 agreement?
Have they got any since then? No, this is the first increase that either water district got. As far as our customers, yes, numerous. So again, the pumps out, you're overspent on chemicals goes up by 40%. The cost of living won't cover my chemicals cost.
If I could interject, your appendix C to the initiating order contains the only tariff that the city has ever filed with the PSC that is reflected as a tariff. And that probably does show different numbers than were in the original agreements with both water districts. And that was at the behest of the Public Service Commission, filed in March of 2019. And I think it was because the city had no tariff on file with the Public Service Commission. So those numbers are different than are reflected in the contracts that were in place with both wholesale customers, but to what degree, how they got bigger, I'm not sure. I'm going to tell you. But that is the tier. Those are the numbers that Sharpsburg used in their exhibit. I'm not sure what number it is there, but we put in a spreadsheet showing when the rate went up. But the tariff numbers that are reflected in your spreadsheet are the same numbers off of this 2019 tariff, if that clarifies anything.
It does. That was one of my follow-up questions. So that leads me, when you make rate changes to your wholesale customers, do they always go through ordinance, or is there any other way that the city might raise those rates?
No, no, not except your order. No, I'm not play God and then say, okay, I need $3 instead of $4 now. No, everything is done through ordinance. Not that.
And are you all able to provide that through data requests, the history of all the ordinances that may have changed the water rates for wholesale clients?
Probably. That's a good question. Mayor was like, he was gone for 7 years, so what happened in that 7-year period?
I have no idea.
Ricky doesn't know either in terms of how those numbers increased, but if they did, I'm sure we can. I know there's a difference between what we started with under those agreements and what was filed in 2019.
It looked like they followed what I was doing before I left out. If the utility, while everything was on, if the utility lost money, we raised the rate. Whether it was water, gas, trash, or, they automatically raised the rate on July 1 for the next fiscal year to accommodate the red ink.
Thank you. So as a follow-up, oh, go ahead.
But we'll attempt to answer the mail on the data request. I will say that the city's in the process of negotiating the cost of service study with an engineering firm that, again, they won't commit to a cost until we give them the same data that you want in terms of where are you. They don't want to have to go back and reinvent the wheel. If we can give them data, then it's going to be a whole lot easier process to do a cost of service study than it would be if they have to come to the city and go through a shoebox full of records to figure out the base data from which to write their cost of service study.
And that's what, the contract cost is up between $30,000 and $60,000.
Thank you. So on the 1989 agreement, the 1993 agreement, the rates are a little bit different. I understand there's a time period in there, which is what my assumption is that caused that difference. Have you all consistently charge all wholesale customers the exact same amounts, or will there ever be a reason that between these Sharpsburg and Nicholas County that you would charge something different?
We have, right now, the only two commercial, I call them commercial customers we have that rates are different is Nicholas County Water District and Sharpsburg Water District. As far as residential or business rates, those have been adjusted the same way, but they're in the city and they're served only by it.
I'm not sure the mayor caught the essence of your question. I think you were asking, are the rates charged to two water districts the same? Was that your question?
It is, thank you.
Yeah, they're that same increase would have went,
Thank you. That's all I was wondering. I asked that because they were different on those two contracts, and I didn't see anything in between them showing that rate, so I just wanted to see if they had raised different rates since they started somewhere different and how that played out.
There are some amendments to those agreements. I think they're part of our record to show how they were amended.
I think we considered some of the exhibits that included some of the ordinances that may have controlled on those changes.
Yes, yes.
some of them were based on the water districts being able to borrow money to expand their systems and to make them alive.
The rural development would be farmers home, I think, require 40-year agreements to coincide with their 40-year bonding process in terms of the lending of money to do infrastructure improvements, and they want to have an agreement in place.
So naturally, to help not just the city, hopefully, but the people that we're gonna serve, we've always been agreeable on extending that contract term. And those terms have been extended without an increase in rates. So,
Now, I'm going to switch just to a little more general conversation or questioning here. In regards to the relationship between Carlisle, Sharpsburg, and Nicholas County since those agreements have gone into place, what has, up until now, has everything gone smoothly? Has contracted everything been consistent? How's that relationship developed over the last 30, 40 years since that those contracts were entered?
as far as the relationship, I feel like both are good. If we're not keeping up with the towers, naturally, I'm on my superintendent say, where are we losing water? If we're losing water, I'm told that people on shift are running crazy. And again, it's a loss of water, and when you're losing money on a subsidy, naturally I become very concerned to the point we gotta find a leak. We've been in a situation where, again, everybody has problems with manpower for the last 2 years, and things like that. when it comes back to a leak, we jump on our leak now. There've been some situations where, again, I don't know their situation as far as getting supply parts and what, but, if you're charging $1 and the prices we are over $1 a thousand, sometimes it's cheaper to work the leak run to Monday rather than pay overtime. I don't know, but again, that happens, and when that happens, again, I'm losing on that amount that's going in a creek or down over hills. And plus, it's draining our system somewhat dry. So if you have a 6 or an 8, and it runs for 3 days under a road, there's situations where you, like I say, you can't fix it at the moment. But again, we're losing money. I can't keep up, and it's a strain on the system.
Alright, so switching gears now to there have been some issues raised of water usage issues with Nicholas County going over the 40 million gallon limit. Can you tell me how long that's been going on? Did they start doing that recently? Has it been going on historical back to, how far back have they been occasionally doing that?
I'm looking at July of 20, it went over by 654,000. Looking at August, over 100,000. Looking at September of 20, 1,400,000. Next month, 1,600,000, 1,300,000, 2,300,000, 1,500,000. Drops back down 3 million below the contract amount. So it jumps back up to 5 million, jumps back up to 6, jumps to 9 million. Again, when those things happen, I need the water district to communicate with us. By the way, we're running hand over foot. Now, my question is this to them: is it because of leaks? When you jump double what you've been using, there's something not adding up with me. Even with our system, you jump double within a 30-day period. Is it leaks? Is it somebody drawn from you that wasn't? Are you pushing the water somewhere else that's not in Nicholas County? So again, but I've been very patient from the point that 4 million gallons, we could cut a valve off and say, hey, that's it. Basically, we have no fire protection. But we've struggled along, we're still struggling along to keep everything working and going. July 21, 8 million. But 9 million, I'm sorry, 9,834,000 gallon of water. And then August, it dropped back down to 7. We dropped back down to 2 or 5. Then we dropped down to 4. We're back up to 5 million again. And again, by contract, I guess I could be a real bad guy and go out and say, okay, open the door, cut the valve off. It's got to stop. But I want to work with these people and everybody else to provide that water. But again, I want to be able to sustain it to the point that I'm not bleeding red ink to death. And I want to be able to get to the point that I can pay for a new water plant that's going to affect all of us. And hopefully that plant, I can do in 8 hours what it takes 20 hours to do.
So you said the earliest time you saw that overusage was July 2020. Do you guys have records that ever occurred before then? And if you do, you know how far back those records go, or how far you guys have kept records for usage amounts?
Our computer system, we keep it back from day one. Again, how much we produce to how much we sell, we've got all that. And again, the amount with wholesale to the amount of water district used. In a period of 1 year, Nicholas County used 67,543,400 gallons of water. Sharpsburg used 22,706,600. So again, we track all those numbers. Again, I track those. We're getting back to the cost. The cost what it to get a gallon to make it, what it cost us in town. When I say, we make 2 million, 5 million goes in town. I know what that number is. It goes to our residential, our business customers, little businesses here that.
Sir, is that historical data part of the data dump that you want from the city?
Very likely.
Okay.
Once all this, when you all did start noticing the overusage, did you guys reach out and communicate with the districts about that?
Reach out many times, even some of the board members, and again, I want to cut a valve off. Now, if there comes a time when we might have to, that is one, if we lose our fire protection. And then, yes, which is more valuable, drinking water at the moment, or getting our fire protection back up, where we don't lose 3 blocks in town. We had a block fire, how many years ago on Mr. Garber's field?
Probably 9 years ago.
9 years ago. Rarely kept up. At the same time, we reach out and to every entity we can to serve. Lincoln River, go dry somewhat. We reach out to businesses and say, okay, you need to curtail water. We have not done that to the water district. We have said you need to preserve water. We've had business, we say, hey, you need not use this, that, you don't need to pay your charge. So I've been there for them when it comes to drinking water and supply. And I'll continue to be. Drinking water. When it comes to fire protection, I guess that's where I'll have to toe the line and say, hey, I'm sorry, your meter's cut off, should we get some water back into the tower? Because again, that doesn't just protect the city, but that protects everybody in the county, anybody has a fire. So again, fire trucks go as a rule of thumb to a hydrant and our hydrant fill up. One of those that, honestly, I don't build the water district or the county or the physical court for the water that comes from the city to fight fires in the county. Which is every other situation in the city around, they ask for me to send them a bill once a year for an estimated amount of water that they use to fight fires, and I understand by KRS, they're supposed to track what the fire departments are, how much water they use to fight fires, but I don't do it.
Did I hear you say that you have not curtailed either the districts, if you have some residential customers?
Yes, I'm in business. I mean, I tell you straight up, I'm a car wash. When water is low, guess what? And a car wash or a laundromat is a drop in the bucket comparison to a resident. Everybody thinks a car wash uses a lot of water. You use a lot of pressure, but you use a very minimal amount of water. Watering yards, when you turn a hose over on a half-inch hose for an 8-hour period, yes, a lot of water is running into thousands. I use maybe 12,000 gallons a month, and you can run that through a water hose in about a 30-hour period.
So there is another ordinance. I think I was there when we passed it. My history with the city's been council since the late 80s, and then there was a time period when we were not council for the city. At the same time, the mayor was out of office for about 3, 4, 5 years. There is a curtailment ordinance that applies to everybody, and I think it probably was generated around the time that Kentucky was having water drought problems, and a number of jurisdictions enacted a curtailment ordinance. I don't think that's in the record. We'll be glad to provide that so you can see how that works.
And I think it's in both their contracts that says we can only, up to your limit contract amount, we can only limit you, we can limit you to that. But if we cut production, have to for some reason, we can only curtail you the same amount that we curtail the people in town.
Understand, thank you. Mr. Watson, a moment ago, you mentioned that the spreadsheet that was provided with the direct testimony of Ms. Gale, it was the Sharpsburg Water District City of Carlisle water calculation. Are you all able to provide something similar to that?
I'm not sure. I mean, we don't disagree with those numbers. We don't. Now, they don't track it except from January 2020. Of course, that number hadn't changed before that. I guess just to show a comparison of when the COLA kicked in July of 2020. I think that the $42 number there for that month probably is reflective of a partial month. I don't know exactly when the bills go out, and their accountant may be sharp enough to figure out that, well, if it's the 5th of July, then we got to.
I try to read all the meters within a standard time, and again, back to COVID and other things, I've had people off with COVID. We've had to go a week or 2 weeks past our meter read date sometime to calculate those numbers and bring them in. So if there's any fluctuation, it's been because of,
If your question is, do we have such a spreadsheet? I mean, for the Sharpsburg Water, we don't disagree. I don't know that we have prepared one for anybody else,
That is my question, is one, if you've seen it, do you see any discrepancies or any disagreements with it? And are you able to provide similar information?
I suppose we could put together how Nicholas County.
I'm sorry, Mr. Watt, is this something the mayor can answer, do you mind?
Well, we didn't examine Nicholas County Water District because I wasn't questioned about Nicholas County Water District on this increase. I was asked about from Sharpsburg, so that's why I didn't do anything on Nicholas County.
If I've said Nicholas County, I meant Sharpsburg, I know Sharpsburg provided that information, so could you provide similar usage rate information?
Yes, we calculated that once they asked, but at the same time, I didn't do one on Nicholas County because I wasn't asked.
I understand. But that can be done if need be.
Sure.
Perfect. And just to verify, you didn't have any issues or disagreements with what Sharpsburg provided in Ms. Haney's testimony?
No, I'm with everything. I want to get along with everybody. I just want to be able to be whole. When I say whole, I don't want to have to keep Robert Peter to take care of Pop.
Well, Mayor Clark, I don't have any more questions for you. I appreciate your time. I will hand this back to the chairman to proceed from there.
I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Cubbage, any questions?
Yeah, just a few, thank you. First off, thank you, Mayor, for being with us today. This has been very helpful information for us to have in sorting this issue out. I know you talked about what sounds like some capital improvements that your water plant is going through. I'm assuming that you have information regarding the costs that you all are investing, that kind of data that we could look at if we needed to?
Sure. Right now, working with Bluegrass Ag, we've got 5 projects rated from two in our district down to 4. 3 of those are water, 1 is sewer, and well, actually 4 and 1. Total cost, we're estimating a $6 million pump station. Water plant, that's a beast of a different animal right now because of COVID and the ability to buy material, to get material. That one's gonna come in, it's gonna be somewhat scary. If a year from now, COVID is somewhat gone and materials come back, I'm dealing with probably right now 22% increase over anything we do because of COVID-related shortages in supplies and demand. We've got a water line that's supposed to have engineering plan done by January the 5th and delivered to me that we'll be in the process of bringing up for 1 bid. Hopefully we can draw some the Washington money that the president signed for infrastructure on all these projects. So again, we're in line, we're pushing to make them happen, and we're gonna continue to.
Are there any upgrades going on right now? I think you had mentioned something about meters being pulled and changed out.
Okay, we have agreements in our contracts on who replaces meters. And we have one that's been ordered for 4 inch to tell how much is going through. That's been on order for about 6 months. I thought it was here, it's not here. Same thing with the city as far as even our residential customers. Our commercial customers with both water districts, all those need to be changed out. They haven't been changed in a number of years. And that all came about because of one thing, monetary consideration that wasn't there to be able to pay for the meters. I started, like I say, from zero in the bank to we buy 50 to 100 meters at a time for residential. We try to buy commercial meters the same way and replace those. And believe me, if I had my hands on today, every meter we have would have definitely changed because I've got residential ones that are 19, 20 years old. And, life expectancy is like 7 years on me. So there has not been in the last few years an ability monetarily to switch those meters out, and we're working every day to make that happen.
You mentioned that there had been a number of audits and you've gotten those caught up, and I know
Yeah.
that's one thing we've requested. But you also mentioned as a result of some of the audits or other financial analysis, you figured out that residential customers were subsidizing these wholesale contracts. How did you figure that out?
Well, if you take in, I'm just gonna use smaller, if you take in, $1,000. Okay, when we break it down at the end of the year, to run that service, it costs $1,200. Okay, I'm $200 short. That money has come from general fund, from a rule some of our gas system, pays our way. When I even have been, and what started this was, the ordinance to do the cost limit was based on the scenario that the gas system was carrying the water in the trash system. In other words, we were taking revenues from our gas system and offsetting the loss in water and sewer. We've been doing that for years. I turned back, this is 15 years ago, we put in the ordinance that said, okay, if we lose on a utility for the trash, gas, whatever, we will raise that on cost of living. So we've adjusted those, to try to catch up. But rule of thumb, again, cost of living is very crazy in some ways, to the point that if chemical goes up 60%, gas goes up this much. When I say gas, my people that run cars, fix leaks, the pipe, this, that, and the other. Federal government comes along and says, okay, cost of living is 5.9%. That's not a true scenario when you're in business and everything you buy is $5%. Pay out to 40% on pipe, up to 28% on a meter. So they don't catch up, and then roll back and come back to a true figure of what it's all. You know, the federal government said 5.9% for the cost of living. All of us are going to be, what is the cost of living? It's based on what you spend versus somebody who maybe didn't spend for it. So it's really not broke.
Madam Commissioner,
That anticipates my next question, actually, which was, the cost of living, is it actually covering your costs right now? Are you able?
No, I'm not saying, I've got like a little kid against the dam, it got a hole that's, 4 inches across, and I'm sticking my thumb in. No, I'm not stopping it, but I'm slowing it down a little, but I'm not stopping.
Okay. And these, I'm sorry, Kim, you were gonna interject.
Madam Commissioner, you raised the question of the audits. I think we e-filed all of those. I'm not absolutely sure about that. If we haven't, that's my mistake, but we had them all in an e-format that I got from our accountants, and I thought we provided all that. Maybe the staff there could clarify whether you have our audits.
Okay. And if we do, then you won't need to resubmit those. I can clarify that with staff. I just want to make sure that this issue of other parts of your city's budget subsidizing the water, are those going to show in those audits?
Yeah, because we're doing transfer. I've got actually transfer from this fund, the gas fund, to the street to the here and there. And again, I'm very fortunate that I'm probably more hands-on for a community that's got a population of 1,600 than anybody's ever had. I want the very best for our city, for our county. I want to be able to survive. I want everybody to survive. So I'm very hands-on. I'm very blessed to the point that whether it's water, sewer, gas, or what, trash, to maintenance work, I can take it to the lines, I can take it to the hydrants, I can take it to the valve. Again, we're a small community, and for me to have 6 people work the city crew, and you have weekends and off and this, that, and the other, we're very blessed that we have a leak or anything, that one of us is somewhere close to where we can pull up and say, oh, by the way, we need to cut this valve off because gas leaking over there, or we need to cut this water valve off because water's running over here, we need to get here and fix it. So, again, if the best case scenario would be I'd have plenty of money and I'd have 2 or 3 more people working, and I wouldn't be out on a backhoe or a trackhoe or anything pushing snow or helping dig a ditch or anything else, but it's not that way. So we all roll up our sleeves and do what we can, and I'm one of those, I wouldn't tell any of my guys I've got, from police to whatever, that I'll do anything that you will do, and I'll stand there beside it.
I only have one more question for you. If you could set an increase that would get you out of the red and give you enough money to cover costs moving forward? Would you even have a guess as to how much of an increase you need in water rates?
Right now, with what we discussed and agreed on between Nicholas County, I can survive with, we make a little bit of money. At some point, I'm gonna be back saying, oh, by the way, we just spent $6 million on a pump station that affects each and every one of us. I'll be back at that point, breaking that down for you all, and I'll be spending that money for that rate study that I'm gonna be passing on. I won't be looking at a cost of living increase, but at some point, yes, we'll be looking at another increase, will be. And then if we're fortunate enough to get a water plant, I'll need a little more money, even though, you know, it's according to how much government money I get, how much I have to borrow, and how much is forgiven. So, again, I'm hoping to help all of us, that means the water district, both of them, that the federal government's gonna look up and say, okay, by the way, you're a low income, you're a poverty community, you're an ARP community, we're gonna give you 80%, so it's gonna cost you 20%. We were down to that on the plant that I had designed and ready to go a few years back, but it didn't happen. So now I'm back in that road, and thank goodness we've been fortunate to pass some of these extra funds for infrastructure. And I could then say, have I got 1914 water line in the ground? Yes, ma'am, I do. Do you want to replace it? Yes, ma'am, I do. Do you have any lead joints? More than likely, yes, ma'am, I do. So again, I only want to increase what we have and increase it to the better. And along the way, I want to help the water district. If we get a new water plant, they want 12 million gallons, guess what? Yep, I don't have a problem. Because I can sustain 12 if you need 12, because of a new plant will give you the ability to push the water to the towers, you give you the ability to replenish it back, and not have to worry about fire protection, and the rate I'm getting, I'm able to pay my debt. So a cost of service study was done in 2010, and through GRW, and I'm still trying to locate all of it, GRW with the engineering firm they use. So we're trying to locate that, and at that time, I went out, when it was done, we were headed to the PSC then. And I leave office, and nothing against anybody. You can take a political job and not do the job and be political, I guess what I'm trying to say. But the goal was to come in front of you in 2010 and say, okay, by the way, here's our study, here's what we're losing, here's what we need, and it didn't happen. So and is that gonna happen at some point down the road? If I get water plant and pump station, yes, ma'am, it is. Now, again, if it's all forgiven and Washington pays us off with this rate that we asked for from the water district that they agreed upon, I can survive. Now, is it the true answer? No. Again, I need more capacity. They need more capacity. And that's what we'll be. We'll be providing. Again, I won't grow. Anything we put in the community or in the county is nothing but a benefit from taxpayers. We're not blessed with 18 industries wanting to come crawl off. If we had one tomorrow morning to come crawl off, said, I want to put in 50 jobs, those 50 jobs, more than likely, you've got to do one of two things. You're either going to have to pay more than what they're getting paid or close to out of town, or there's going to be transit that comes in and under a contract and work 6 months and go back out. Now, does that help? It may help the bottom line a little bit, but which is more productive. Those people are people who come and build a house that's going to use 10,000 gallons of water a month and pay on a $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 house to tax it to the county or the city. So again, we want to do what we can, when we can, and what we can afford. And right now, I can't afford very much.
That's all I've got. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Oh, I appreciate you.
Commissioner Butler, do you have any questions?
Just a couple. You talked about, thank you for being with us, Mayor. You spoke about replacing meters and wanting to replace them because some of them are old. Do you ever pull any of your meters to test to see if they're accurate?
Yes, ma'am. We have them tested, and it's real some. And again, we're blessed a little bit by the quality of water that we're making. We're not shooting sand through sand, which eats the brass out, which causes things. Rule of thumb, I'm just changing them out because, they're old. I know they're not reading. So rather than spend $65 for a little meter to get it tested, I'd rather spend $200 and the meter come back bad, and I'm still spending the $200 plus the $65. I just had to have it tested. So I'm one of those that rather replace what I feel like is a problem. We go so far, and even when we read our meter reader, if your volume is up, it's flagged. The system, I put the system in 12, 15 years ago. When you insert the number on that meter, the usage, it pings. If it's a jump of more than 2,000 gallons, it pings. It says, wait a minute, something's wrong. At that point, when it comes back into the office, we'll print a sheet and we'll call the customer and say, do you think you got a problem or not? And if you do, we'll go out and check it. Now, the water district have 4 meters, Nicholas County, the Sharpsburg only has 1. And again, you're talking about 4-inch meters, big meters, and I can't get them, but they need to be 1 calibrated or 2. I had connected rural water in, and they worked with Nicholas County very well this summer looking for leaks and things where they're really jumping. And they tried to not pull the meter to check it, but they have equipment that can tell if the meter is close or not. And that is so-so. But the true way is 7 years, you pull a meter out, you put a new meter in, and you move on.
Do you know what your water loss is?
Water cost?
Loss. You're on account for water.
We're probably, for the year, I don't know, 3 to 5% maybe, if that. When I count that, again, I'm counting water that is used by the fire department to fight fire. I count that as a loss, again, because I'm not here selling it. Now, I can do better, but again, I'm back to have meters at the plant that I'm waiting on to be replaced that I know is not reading right. When on one side of the plant, you say you're pumping in 700,000 gallons, and on the outside, you're saying you're pumping out 900,000 gallons. That's not right. Okay, or 6. So again, that is where we're at, where we're trying to fix. And again, you're talking about something that's in the 50s, and you want to say come over with Moses on the ark or something. It's just you've got to get there, but you've got to do it pay. I'm one of those that since I've been in this time, and even before, Friday is payday for bills, every Friday. You can ask my counsel, you can ask anybody. If you send us a bill, I expect to pay you on Friday. I don't like holding bills and have to pay 25% for this month and 25% for next month. So you take $100 for a month, now you're over $200. And that's part of the things that was happening in the past. They were floating, paying the forest one out, cut off material. The city had been cut off from vendors in the past when these audits and things were done, to not be able to get from gasoline to plumbing supplies to this, that, the other. I'm very proud of my council. They've gone along, they've been supportive, they've been helpful from the point that we pay our bills on time as they come in, and we have credit where we need it, and at the same time, if we have to float along tomorrow to do something, we can float that along.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, do you know how much per gallon it costs to produce water?
So, the last, again, that's a loaded question in a way because the chemicals have gone through the roof in the last year. Last time I was into water at the wholesale, again, on the volume, we were about $2.06. Now, again, that's based on the cost of the chemicals that I'm using, and in that one, we changed from some of the other chemicals to a lime and some different things. We had some equipment figured in. Right now, with the way things are, I'm still hoping the way it looks, we're still at that $2 range.
Okay.
Now,
So-
and again, I've depreciated out to the point that I can't depreciate a water plant that was designed before the 50s. And when I say 50s, I think 1953 is when they ran the water from the Lincoln River to the lakes in town. The plant's been there longer than that. This is the same plant that's been there, that's got the old brick and the old mortar. And along the way, we changed the filter media and the filter one time. And the reason I know, I was down in there shoveling it out. I don't think I was on the city council at the time, but that's how many years ago back that I'm down there. We cleaned them out, sandblasted the wall, repainted epoxy, and put that in. And me standing here tell you I need to do it again. Yes, sir, I need to do it again. but with the amount of water that we're making and the ability to store the water, I've got to be awful careful from the point that, again, I'm not calling both water districts to say, hey, I'm out of water because I got a filter down.
You think, but all this is information that we would need to determine what the appropriate wholesale water rate is. Would you agree?
Yes, but at the same time, I think you should agree with me that if you look at the surrounding communities on what the other water districts charge, you all have a fair idea of what it costs to make it. So again, to spend $60,000 for something that you all were within 50 cents, you'd be within 50 cents of anybody around and say, okay, this is what it should cost to provide water. You need to spend $60,000 to come up with a rate study, and then turn around and I'm going to pass that on to who? Joe, Tom, Murray, and everybody else is somewhat.
So are you arguing that you all ought to have a rate that's comparable to other producers regardless? Let me finish, Mayor. Sorry. That you all should have a rate that's based off what other people charge, not what your own costs are?
No, I'm saying that if you look at the surrounding customers around that other people buy from, we are at a much cheaper rate than they are. Now, our cost is probably lower because, again, I don't know the indebtedness of Kentucky American or some of the other people that are selling water to these other districts. But when you pull up the surrounding communities where they have the ability to buy from, I'm way under. And I'm doing it. I've done that because, again, our costs right now are not as great as theirs as far as their insurance costs.
Right. And what I'm trying to get to the bottom of is what your actual costs are, right? What your wholesale costs are versus your retail costs. And would you agree that we don't have a great amount of insight into that right now with the record we have?
I know it costs a grand $2 to make water.
How long do you think that you all have lost money on the wholesale rate, in your opinion?
15 years, 20 years.
Okay.
Again, I did several, it used to be farmers owned water, farmers FDA loan. And every time I've done one, whether it's been water or what, Mr. Howe down in Moorhead, I've had to sign an agreement saying that you're going to offset the cost in water to replace this line or put this water tower up or blah, blah, blah by subsidizing through other utilities, which has been our gas. So we've lost money for years. And it's gone on to the point that, as a rule, the city felt it was fine from the point that we were making it off gas. Now, you sit here and say, has gas usage gone up or down? It's gone down. Okay, so now I'm not going to have the money to offset those costs back with revenue from another utility to offset. But I had to sign a document that we would guarantee that we would pay that with other revenues if we got a loan.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get to is the exigent circumstances that the city, claims that require the commission immediately approve this increase are a result of the fact that this is, by your all's own admission, has not been high enough for 15 years. Would you agree?
And in those years, there's not been the ability to truly come in front of you and say, first thing you're going to want, or anybody else is an audit. We haven't had those, and we're just now up to the point that they're completed. And for somebody to say that we did 7 audits in a run of a year and a half is unreal to get those caught up that quick. So we're caught up. I know what we're losing. I know how we're losing it. I know how we're subsidizing what we lost. And I know about what it's cost us within this to make it happen. Same time, I have water districts that have said they agree with what we want to charge, which to me, that makes this a moot issue from the point that they said, okay, we're going to pay it. So to me, it's arbitrary that somebody else steps between us and say, okay, we don't agree with that. When you have 3 different governing boards say, it's okay, let's move on. We understand that you got to be able to make water and make a little bit of money, and at the same time, we know that you got to have improvements to the system to serve us and yourself.
Yeah. Well, respectfully, Mayor, your issue with that is with the General Assembly, in that they didn't say that you all could just come up by agreement with whatever you want to charge. They vested that with us as to what the appropriate rate is. And what I'm trying to get to the base of is what that appropriate rate is. When are we going to get the numbers? Well, let's take a step back. That 1993 agreement says that all you all have to do is produce an ordinance to raise rates based off demonstrable increases or decreases in production costs, right?
Yes.
And that's what it says. There is nothing that has precluded you all from actually passing those ordinances that increase or decrease the rates based off demonstrable increases or decreases in production costs, correct?
Yes, and that's based on the economy and how inflation is running and ability to get materials and stuff, yeah.
Right, so you all could have at any time, as your production costs change, by ordinance, change those rates. And up until this year, you all have not proposed by ordinance for many years to change that wholesale rate, correct?
Correct, and what started this, I got a call from PSC, from one of your branches, and asked me for information on our rates and why we hadn't adjusted rates. And again, the rule of thumb has been, if we balance the books, we're okay. Okay, that has to change, and that's what we're here to do, to try to get that change for each utility stand on its own. Now, me sit here and say, okay, I get an increase in the water where I'm making a little bit of money. Can I lower your residential bill on your gas bill that heats your home? Yes, that's gonna happen. Because the opposite is happening right now. Your rate partially is based on the amount of money we lose.
Well, I appreciate that, Mayor, but that's not necessarily on point with what we're discussing here. What I want to ask is, when you raised the rates on July the 20th,
Yes.
by ordinance, were you aware that you needed to file those with the Public Service Commission?
No.
Okay.
Again, public service stamped this, saying they agreed with the contract.
Right, but were you aware that in 2019, that you had to have a tariff, that the commission required you, that for years you were supposed to have it, and required in 2019 that you actually have a tariff that sets forth the actual rate? You were unaware of that?
19, no, it hadn't been an issue. Am I aware of it? No. When I look at the contract, I looked at the point that it was stamped, when it was stamped, and,
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second, Mayor. Hold on. We're passing notes back and forth. We're gonna stop doing that, right?
Okay.
I'm asking you questions about what you are aware of, not what anybody else in the room is aware of and passes you a note on. Okay. Were you aware, before that July 20th ordinance, were you aware of the existence of the tariff setting forth the rate that the city of Carlisle was able to charge for wholesale rates that was filed in 2019? Were you aware of it?
2019, yes.
You were aware of that tariff that was at the commission that included your wholesale rate?
When I finally read through this and seen the stamp, yes.
Okay, but was that on or after July the 20th? When you read that?
I read that before July the 20th, and I've read it a dozen times after July the 20th. And I keep going back to it, and again, I look at the stamp from September the 9th of 94, and who signed off on it, that they agreed. Now, did the city utilize it? No. For what reason? I don't know. I know I need to utilize it, and that way we're not faced with a monumental jump instead of needing 12 cents or 15 cents, $1 or 80 cents. If you take a little bit over time, people can get adjusted to that, but when you take a monumental jump, it's hard on everybody.
So when the ordinance was passed on July the 20th, excuse me, when the ordinance, okay, so taking a full step back, the agreement says that you can raise rates based on demonstrable increases or decreases in production costs, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then it says the manner in which you can change those rates is by city ordinance, correct?
And that's another option.
Well, but, I mean, the city can't take an action except through, this is to Mr. Young's question to you, the city can't take an action other than through ordinance, correct?
Unless you approve it.
Well, we're walking down the path of process here. There has to be a change in the production costs. Without a change in the production costs, the rate can't change under that agreement, correct?
There, a loss of money, of
Well,
cost.
respectfully, Mayor, I'm just quoting the terms of the agreement. It's an increase or decrease in production costs. That's what that section 5 we discussed earlier said, correct?
That's how we raised it this amount.
Okay, that's fine. So it says increase or decrease in production costs, and then the manner in which to actually change that rate to reflect that increase or decrease in production costs is through an ordinance, correct? That's what the agreement says.
And we have an order.
That's right. So you passed the ordinance. Were you aware at any time on or before July the 20th that after the city passes the ordinance that they have to then file that rate with the Public Service Commission?
No.
Okay.
And the reason why I feel that, because again, you lost staff confidence saying the contract was good.
So,
I mean, you stamp a contract saying, okay, we agree with you, we accept it, and it says that very thing, that we have a right to do that, and then come with these questions this way, I don't understand.
okay. So you mentioned earlier that more than half the costs for the utility, for the water side of the utility, are outside of the city. Is that what you said?
I'm saying that we have city customers, and we also have county customers that are served by us and not either district.
And that's why I wanted to clarify. When you were talking about the half the cost being outside the city, I want to clarify that you were talking about Carlisle customers that just so happen not to be in the city limits, not necessarily wholesale customers outside the city. Is that right?
Residential customers that are served by us that have not been annexed to the city, yes.
Okay. It's a Carlisle meter that the water's running through, right?
Yes, sir, not
Okay.
the water district, it's our meter.
Okay. Mr. Talley, do you have any questions for the mayor?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Rogers, any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Watson, do you have any redirect to your witness?
One thing that concerned me was your reference to an ordinance in July of 2020. The mayor said, yes, there was an ordinance. I think he meant the operable ordinance was the cost of living ordinance that was passed in 2006. It is at our exhibit 4, ordinance 6-2000, which is at our exhibit 4.
Yeah, it was my understanding, Mr. Watson, that there was an ordinance passed in July of this year that actually increased the rate.
Correct. That was to enact the tariff that we filed in August. In other words, the tariff that is the subject matter of this hearing.
That's what I was asking specifically about the ordinance that set forth the new rate.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure for the mayor there, that ordinance that actually set forth the new rate, was there an ordinance that set that rate, and was it done in July of this year?
It was not. I'm not sure of the date of that. It may have been as late as when you pointed out that we needed to do that. The first reading of that ordinance may have been as late as October.
Okay, so let me ask Mr. Watson. I'll give you all the time in the world to do some redirect, because that is a clarification I want to seek with the mayor. What action was taken to actually approve the increase in the dollar per gallon or dollar per 1,000 gallon, whatever what action was taken by the city to actually increase those rates?
What we did is by resolution.
Okay. So there was a resolution, not an ordinance, a resolution that set forth the dollar amount that the increase was going to go up that occurred this year?
If you give me a minute here, I'll pull that resolution out. I think the resolution simply authorized the mayor to file the tariff that had been agreed to by the water district. Let me see if I can find that. Excuse me just a second here, I know I got it.
And I'll tell you, has Mr. Watson left the room?
Yeah, he wants to get rid of the motion.
And I think we can maybe dispel of this, Mr. Watson, and maybe ask this in a written manner so it's easier to provide the documentation and not have to go off people's memory. But I'm going off of what I saw in the agreement, which is that the rates, are going to be established from time to time by ordinance of the city of Carlisle. And what you all are saying is that instead of the rates being changed by ordinance, the rates were changed by resolution of the city council authorizing the mayor to change the rates in accordance with what the mayor determined the cost to be. Is that accurate, Mayor?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's very helpful. So when I was speaking about an ordinance earlier, that was an error. What that really was the resolution in the middle of this year. Is that correct, Mayor? Okay. Is that an affirmative?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That copy of that, sir, that date of that meeting was 9 August of 2021.
Okay, that'd be great. And then so I just want to make sure I understand. Did you raise the rates to either of the wholesale customers prior to that resolution?
No.
Okay. All right. Mr. Watson, you may conduct some redirect if you have it.
I really don't have any further questions of the mayor.
Okay. It is, I have here that it is 11:17. I'd like to take a short recess. We'll take an 8-minute recess until 11:25. right, we're back on the record in case number 2021-00382. Mr. Watson, did you have an additional witness this morning?
Unless anybody has any questions of the actual water superintendent, we can question him if you'd like. This is Ricky Moore. He runs the water plant and distribution system as well. Distribution, okay.
Okay. I'm trying to look for Mr. Young here. Mr. Young, do you have any questions, Mr. Moore?
Chairman, I don't have any questions that can't be submitted through a data request at a later time.
Okay. Mr. Watson, I assume that'd be preferential to you if we give them to you in writing and give you plenty of time. It would be preferential if we have any questions for Mr. Moore to send them to you in writing and give you plenty of time to respond. Would that be preferential?
That's fine. I did want him to add anything he might be able to add to some of the issues that have been raised earlier, so.
That'd be fine. Yeah, that'd be fine. I'll go ahead and swear him in then. All right, Mr. Moore, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record as loud as you can.
Okay. Ricky Moore, 553 North Broadway, Carlisle, Kentucky.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Watson, if you want to ask a couple of direct questions to get the information you were discussing.
Mr. Moore, would you explain what your duties are as far as the city of Carlisle's water treatment and/or distribution is?
Yes, I've been with the city 21 years. I maintain the water distribution system, the natural gas system, the trash department, meter reading schedule, sewer department, street department, and we fix the water leak, flush hydrants, anything to do with distribution is what I take care of.
Mr. Moore, do you know how long the meters that serve the Nicholas County Water District have been in use?
I know they have been in use ever since I've been there, and I was hired in June of 2000.
So as far as you know, those meters have not been replaced?
I assume they have been replaced, but we have no documentation on it.
Have they been calibrated lately?
I'm not real sure. I've asked to get the paperwork on that, and I'm waiting to get the paperwork where they've been calibrated.
In terms of the Sharpsburg meter, how many meters serve Sharpsburg Water District?
We have one.
Do you know what, the same question, how long's that meter been in service?
I want to say we changed that in 2014, 2015.
Okay. And have you ordered meters to replace any of the 5 meters serving your wholesale customers?
Yes, I ordered a 4-inch meter to replace the Sharpsburg meter kit, and that was ordered in August.
Okay. Do you have a figure on what you think the cost to produce water per 1,000 gallons for Carlisle is, including water treatment and distribution?
Yes, we are looking at around $2.50. $2.50.
Okay. That's all the questions I have then.
Okay. Vice Chair, do you have any questions? Or I guess Mr. Young, do you want to go ahead and ask any now, or I think it may be best to put them in writing, but you're happy to. I'm happy to let you ask them now.
Yeah, if he doesn't mind, since he's already sworn in, I do have a question or two for him.
Okay, please proceed.
Mr. Moore, do you deal with any of the rate issues or any of the rate billing processes with the water district or with Carlisle's water?
No, sir.
Okay, so you're just the plant, you focus on plant management and distribution.
Yes.
Okay, that was my only question, and Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair?
No questions.
Commissioner Butler?
No question.
Okay. Mr. Moore, are you involved at all in the billing of water rates to the wholesale customers?
No, sir. All we do, we read the water meters, is what we do.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it, Mr. Moore. Mr. Rogers, Mr. Talley, do you have any questions for this witness?
No, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't sure what he said the cost was. Was it $2.50?
$2.56.
56.
Yes, sir.
And how do you, never mind, that's fine. Did I understand you correctly that you do not do anything at the water treatment plant itself?
No, we have a operator that takes care of that. I'm just over the maintenance on the plant and the pumps and stuff like that.
Thank you, that's all the questions I have.
All right, Mr. Watson, any questions?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. Is there any reason, council, that the mayor, Mr. Moore, may not be excused from the remainder of the hearing?
I have no objection unless they just want to sit here and watch. Sure, the mayor's interested.
Mr. Rogers, Mr. Talley, would you all be fine excusing them should they wish to leave?
Yes, as far as I'm concerned, they may be excused.
Yes, no objection.
Okay. Mayor, Mr. Moore, it's your prerogative. You're welcome to stay, stick around for the end of it, or leave at your convenience. All right, Mr. Watson, those are all your witnesses. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. I guess I'd ask Mr. Rogers, do you have any intention on calling any witnesses today?
Commissioner, I had submitted the testimony of our manager, Gil Haney. It's been pre-filed. I don't know if the commission's interested in hearing her. All I would do is just have her authenticate that testimony, and that's it.
Yeah, so that would be the preference. If you could submit her, give her the introduction, authenticate the testimony, although you may have filed it verified at the time, but and then tender her for some cross-examination by commission staff would be great.
That'd be fine. I can do that now.
Okay.
Your Honor, we have no objection to that and really don't need to cross-examine Ms. Haney.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Watson. All right. So we'll call Gail Haney at this time.
Just for clarification, the Gail's image, it indicates her name as Shariah Mitchell on here, so I'll just,
That's okay. We'll get her under oath in a minute, and she can tell us her name, and we'll dispel with the name that's on the screen.
It's not an alias or anything like that.
All right. Ms. Haney, do you mind to raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
Dale Haney, I reside at 95 Bethel Ridge Road, Sharpsburg, Kentucky.
Okay. Mr. Rogers, you may ask.
Gail, you've already stated your name. Do you recall your direct testimony that you gave and executed before me, November, or actually not before me, but before a notary, November 12th of 2021?
Yes,
Do you have that with you today?
I do.
Okay. And is that testimony true and accurate?
Yes,
And do you have any edits, changes, or other comments about that testimony at this time?
no,
Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, I would submit the witness for cross-examination.
All right, Mr. Young, do you have any questions for Ms. Haney?
I do, Chairman, thank you. Ms. Haney, my understanding is that you have been the manager of Sharpsburg Water District for 38 years, so that's the entirety of the contract you've had with Carlisle, is that correct?
yes,
Perfect. And then, to your knowledge, have there been any other rate changes to the most recent memo that was submitted sometime this year or last year, effective, I think, July 2020, according to your records? And was there any changes in rates before then?
no.
And how are you informed of that rate change back in July of 2020?
We weren't informed, and I don't know exactly when I noticed that the bill didn't coincide with the gallons used, maybe somewhere around June or July of this year. So I started calculating them out, and they weren't the same as the rates on file.
Thank you. It also looks like the discrepancies seem to change a little bit month to month. From your spreadsheet and your records, does what they started billing in July, was that consistent through the end of July 2021 at the end? So from July 2020 to July 2021, was the rate they charged you consistent?
Yes. It's based on the gallons used, it's the reason they're different.
Thank you. On one of the documents you tendered with your direct testimony, it looks like it was the water district rates, the rate schedule that you sent over. It looks like somebody hand wrote a note on that saying effective August 2021. Did you write that or was that on it when you received it?
No, that was done by Carlisle.
Okay. But that, according to your records, the rate actually went into effect in July of 2020, correct?
Yes.
And then, as of this time, has Carlisle refunded or sent any reimbursement or credited your all's accounts to your knowledge?
No.
Chairperson, those were my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair, any questions?
Thank you for your time.
No questions, thanks.
Commissioner Butler?
No questions.
All right, I just want to make sure I'm clear from the answers you just provided. Are you still being charged the same rates that you've been charged since August of this year?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Watson, do you have any questions?
I'm not sure if it's a numbered exhibit, but the water district rates that start 1148 and end with 202, are those reflective of the tariff that was just filed by the city of Carlisle in August? They're about today?
Are you asking me?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
So the 1148, the tier 1 running down to 202 and tier 8, those numbers don't back up with what tariff the city filed with the PSC? As far as you know?
No.
That sheet is on a city of Carlisle letterhead, is that correct?
The rates were emailed me and it just says water district rates, and I am looking at this 1148, that was the cost of living increase.
All right, I think that new tariff is what is reflected. Actually, the only number that is the same is at the bottom there. We filed it on the 30th of September. It was revised, but the bottom line per thousand is 202 on the tariff. That is an exhibit to, I'm not sure, that's an exhibit to the complaint, I believe. Yes, along with the notice, and then, of course, that was August. These others weren't filed until September. Did you not get a copy of the notice of the filing of the tariff by the city in September?
Yes, I have that, but that's not what I'm looking at.
Okay, and that is, what you're looking at was dated August, is that correct?
What I'm looking at was emailed to me September the 10th.
Okay,
which is the cost of living increase.
where does it reflect that it's the cost of living increase?
That's what I was told when I talked to someone from your office on the phone.
Okay, well, those rates are actually the rates that were negotiated with the Nicholas County Water District as far as the bottom line at 202 being the minimum the city said it needed. And then the other tariff was filed.
Mr. Watson, excuse me, Chairman, could I ask that they clarify exactly which exhibits they're referring to, so that we know exactly what we're talking about?
Yeah, Mr. Watson, staff counsel has asked that you identify the document that you're reading from.
Okay, that is,
I believe that it's an exhibit to Ms. Haney's filed testimony, is what Ms. Haney is referring to. Is that correct? That it's a blank page?
Let's see what he's referring to.
we filed the tariff with GST, it's party four exhibits.
Yes, sir. We do have your proposed tariff, if that's what you're referring to.
Correct.
Okay.
You got notice of that?
And that,
Hold on.
Yeah. If you look at the proposed tariff, when is the effective date of it?
October 30th.
Can you
Or your
repeat?
opinion?
Can you repeat your answer, Ms. Haney?
The proposed tariff was effective date October 30th.
Okay. To your knowledge, did that tariff ever go into effect? Has the city of Sharpsburg been billed that amount?
No.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay. Mr. Rogers, any redirect?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Is there any additional questions? Does anybody have anything for Ms. Haney before we offer her the opportunity to leave? All right, Ms. Haney.
If I could ask one more question, Your Honor, I just thought of this. Who else does this Sharpsburg Water District purchase potable water? Where do you get the other potable water from?
Bath County Water.
Do you know what you pay per 1,000 gallons for Bath County?
We just had a purchase water adjustment. I'm not sure. It's 368. I'm not sure.
And approximately how many gallons per month do you purchase from them?
6 to 8 million.
And about how much do you purchase from the city of Carlisle?
Less than 2 million.
Thank you, that's all the questions.
Okay. Mr. Rogers, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you for being here with us today, Ms. Haney. You may be excused.
Thank you.
Mr. Talley, at this time, would you like to call any of your witnesses?
No, Your Honor, we do not wish to present any testimony. However, they are available if the commission desires to ask them questions.
Mr. Young, do you have any questions for witnesses Cleaver, McDonald, Reynolds, or Higginbotham, or Sparks?
Nothing that could be easily responded to by the request, Your Honor.
Okay. I presume you'd prefer that, Mr. Talley?
Yes, Mr.
Then
Chairman.
you get an opportunity to help formulate responses. Mr. Watson, do you have any questions for any of those witnesses that you would like Mr. Talley to call?
Your Honor, yes, a couple of questions, but it matters not to us who answers, and we're not sure whoever would have knowledge of it would be the better witness to answer, so.
Well, let me ask, Mr. Watson, you have the right, I think, today, given that it's been indicated that these witnesses will be available. We can call them, and you can try to see who knows, or we can provide you an opportunity to file written questions to the district at large, and they can identify which witnesses would be best to respond. It's up to you.
I would like to get at it, at least, I'd like to ask the question, at a minimum, why does the Nicholas County Water District need twice the amount of water that is in the original contract?
That'd be fine. Mr. Watson, I'm interested in that as well. Mr. Talley, do you have a witness today that you think will be able to answer questions along that line?
I would defer to my clients, but either the office manager or the board chairman, office manager, she's actually the manager, Monica Pryor, or Mr. Chairman Cleaver.
Why don't we call, why don't you call Mr. Talley, Ms. Pryor?
Ms. Pryor, are you, can you hear us?
We'll have to take a pause. Hold on one second. Let's make sure that we didn't just lose our entire system. We're good? Okay. All right. Mr. Talley, you may try again.
Ms. Pryor, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
The chair will swear you in at this time.
Ms. Pryor, we'd ask that you make sure your microphone is on and your camera is on.
I'm not showing that my camera is on.
We don't see
Under
anything.
Silas, it would be under Silas Cleaver.
Yeah, the camera's not on yet. It was earlier.
We're not sure why we lost it.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Ms. Pryor, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Monica Pryor. Address is 1643 Old Paris Road, Carlisle.
Okay. Mr. Talley, you may ask.
Ms. Pryor, what is your water district?
I'm sorry.
What are your duties?
I'm the office manager here.
How long have you worked as the office manager?
4 years. It was 4 years in August.
I'll tender this witness for cross-examination.
Given that staff has indicated they don't have any questions, or I guess, Mr. Young, do you have any questions for this witness?
Your Honor, since she has been called, I do have some questions. I can ask them now or at a later time, whatever you prefer, Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Pryor, have you seen the spreadsheet that we've been discussing that Ms. Haney prepared? The one that breaks down the charges, the usage charges, and what they thought it should have been and what it actually was since July 2020 to July 2021?
I have not.
Okay, that's fine. Basically, what that information that provided was usage amount, the current rate, and what they thought the rate should have been. Is that something that Nicholas County could also provide a chart like that, or at least that information?
Yes, we could.
Okay, thank you. Are you aware of any other changes in rates besides the most recent one that came through?
No, I am not.
Okay. And you said you've been with Nicholas County for, was it 4 years?
Yes, sir.
Do you know about how much water you all have used during that time period that you've been there? Have you all gone over that 40 million further back than 2020, or do you know if that increase in usage started in 2020?
I think 4 million.
Thank you.
I have a printout of each month. I think I've gone back 2 years is what I think 2 years is what I went back on that. And we have
just as previously stated, we have gone over that.
Okay. If we submitted a data request, would that be information you get going further back into history as well, or is about 2 years as far as your records go?
No, sir, we could provide that.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. And when the rates changed, when did you all notice that rate change? Were you informed of before it went into effect? Do you know?
We received a bill, let me grab this. We received our bill for, the dates being June 30th, 2021 to, July 29th of 2021, our readings, and we did notice, the increase to the $2.02 then. I called the city office and I spoke to Angie, and I asked her, had we been charged the $2.02, and she said, that yes, we had, and, actually, I think the other girl, Christy, I think she was out sick, at the time, so that's who I needed to speak to. And she did call me back as soon as she came back to work, and they gave us the corrected totals on our billing.
When you say they gave you the corrected totals, does that mean they went back to the previous rate when you addressed it with them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So did you ever actually overpay anything, or did they correct that before you made it? And do you know how far back in time that new rate was in effect before you noticed, or was that the first time that?
That was the first time on ours.
And are they still, as of today, still charging you the old rate, or are they charging you the new rate?
No, the old rate.
And do you mind just, can you tell me off the top of your head what that rate is?
I think it is $1.30, $1.63, I'm sorry.
And that's $1.63 for 10,000 gallons?
It fluctuates with the usage, or it's, where that's tiered, that's based on our usage.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you for your time today. I don't have any further questions, Chairman.
Vice Chair, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Butler?
No questions.
Mr. Watson?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind. Is it Pryor, Ms. Pryor? Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Are you familiar with the operation of the Board of Directors of the Nicholas County Water District? You know how they operate?
As far as,
Their meetings and decision-making and things like that?
yes,
Were you present at the meeting that the mayor attended in July of 2021, at which point you raised the issue of the city of Carlisle needing an additional amount of money for the wholesale water rate? Were you at
yes,
that
I was
meeting?
present.
Would you relate to the commission what the circumstances of that were and what was ultimately decided?
We were presented with, the board was presented with, a new rate of, I believe, $2.02 and $2.02. And I think after discussion, the board agreed to that. A motion was made, to accept that.
Were there any other matters to be discussed at a new rate of $2.02 per thousand?
I'm sorry, you cut out, couldn't hear that.
Okay. Were there any other matters raised regarding the agreement between the city and the water district except for the change in rate to 202 per thousand.
Now, I believe that they also discussed at that time, increasing our usage.
Is that reflected in the minutes of the meeting of the board of directors?
If there was, it would be if there was a motion made, if there was it would be reflected. If we made a change, if it was, voted upon.
Okay. Do you know whether or not that was a condition for agreement to the $2.02?
I believe it was, yes.
Okay, and if that were the case, it's going to be reflected in those minutes, correct?
Yes, if that were the case,
I don't know who we have to ask of this, Your Honor, whether it's Ms. Pryor. I don't know if there is a secretary to the board. Can we get a certified copy of the minutes of that meeting of July? See what
You can.
Okay. Could you make part of that a part of your testimony today?
So, Mr. Watson, what we'll do, if you need documents for evidence, what we'll do is at the end of this hearing, we'll have a short discussion in which we'll set dates for folks to request that type of information from each other. And we'll also set the date in which those responses will be due. That information, when it's responded to, will be required to be verified and will automatically, upon its filing, be part of the record that any party can, base their arguments off of.
Why does the Nicholas County Water District need an increase of 100% from 4 million to 8 million gallons?
Well, the old rate, what we were set at, I think that's, over 25 years old. We all know, how much growth we've had in the community since then, but we have also, lately we have had issues with, leaks, obviously, and, mostly it's the growth.
She's speaking, I can't hear, she is.
Yeah, Ms. Pryor, can you try to speak? We've lost audio for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have had issues with leaks in the past, and we've had several significant leaks. And also, our contract is, of course, over 25 years old, and we've had quite a bit of growth in the community since then. We're all aware of that here.
Is the growth in your water sales to retail customers solely?
Yes. To residential customers.
Does the Nicholas County Water District provide any water at wholesale?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and to who?
Harrison County.
Okay. Is that on file with the PSC in terms of both entities showing it's going from you and to Harrison County, and the same with their records as far as you know?
Yes, it is.
What's the approximate amount of gallons you sell a month to Harrison County?
That fluctuates upon their usage.
Okay, could we get a spreadsheet that shows, well, first of all, let me back up. How long has the Nicholas County Water District been selling water to Harrison County?
Now that I'm not sure about. That,
The whole amount of time that you've been there, the 4 years at least?
yes.
Could you provide us with records that show how much water the Harrison County Water District has purchased from Nicholas County?
Yes, I can.
What's the rate that Harrison County pays Nicholas County?
Harrison's is here. I'm sorry, $2.10 per 1,000 gallons until April 21st of 2021, which then, it went to 302 per 1,000.
Now, those are the numbers you received from Harrison County Water District, correct?
I'm sorry?
That's what you charge Harrison County per 1,000.
Yes,
Is that reflected in the tariff on file with the Public Service Commission?
yes.
When was that tariff filed?
Has the date of April 21st, 2021.
Do you recall what justification that the Nicholas County Water District made to get a 50% increase in its rate to Harrison County?
Actually, it was a pass-through because the water we had purchased from Western Fleming had increased their rates.
So how is that reflected in the amount of water that comes from Carlisle that goes to Harrison County?
Well, half of the water that we purchase goes to Harrison County.
So half
I'm
of,
sorry, Fleming, from Western Fleming.
and how much of the water that you purchase from Carlisle goes to Harrison County?
Maybe a third.
Okay. But the rate that you charge, Carlisle didn't change its rates in April of 2021, did they?
Not until July.
Okay. But the 302 is reflected as a pass-through based on the increased cost from Western Fleming.
Yes. That was the reason.
With the increased cost also applies to the 1/3 of the water that you buy from Carlisle, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Which 302 also applies to the 1/3 water that you purchased from Harrison County. I'm sorry, from Carlisle.
I'm having trouble hearing Mr. Watson. It's cutting in and out.
I think, Your Honor, at this point, we would be content to submit our questions in writing if we're having a tough time getting it here today. I've got enough information to start, and we can do written interrogatories or whatever the rules of the proceeding are.
Okay. Are there any additional questions, commissioners or staff that you have for Ms. Pryor? Okay. Mr. Talley, do you have any redirect, Ms. Pryor?
No, Your Honor.
And just to be clear, Mr. Watson, you think that, well, I guess other than the questions you intend on providing in writing, you don't have any other additional questions you'd like to ask the witnesses from Nicholas County, is that correct?
Yes, I do, Your Honor, just one more here. As long as we're talking about rates and quantities, are there other terms in the 25-year-old, actually 35-year-old agreement between the city and Nicholas County that you're willing to renegotiate? I'm speaking in terms of, let me be specific, the operation of your system and our system will ensure that the city of Carlisle has adequate water and water pressure to fight fires at all times in the city of Carlisle. Is that open to renegotiation?
She has something on its feedback.
Water system is not already.
Did you hear that? I'm sorry.
Are you addressing me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm only hearing, I don't know if you all can hear me, but
So can I
I'm
ask,
hearing
before-
like every other word.
Before you answer, Ms. Pryor, I'll just ask Mr. Rogers and Mr. Talley if they can mute, because we are getting some sort of feedback. Okay, please proceed, Ms. Pryor.
Okay, I'm only hearing like every other word here. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, you're loud and clear.
Okay,
You're in good shape. Are
sorry.
there any other provisions in the contract between the city and your water district that the water district is prepared to renegotiate? And I speak in terms specifically, the operation of the system, the ownership and maintenance of meters and valves, a take or pay provision in any new contract that includes an increase in volume. Are those the kinds of things that you're prepared to sit down and talk about?
That would be, yes, we would. I can't really speak for the Board of Commissioners, but I do feel like that, yes, they would be willing to negotiate there.
Thank you. I think that's all we have for now.
Okay. Mr. Talley, anything else?
Nothing further.
All right. So if Mr. Talley doesn't, Mr. Talley, you don't intend on calling into your other witnesses, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Pryor.
Thank you.
Okay.
I should be excused now.
So it seems to bring us to the conclusion of evidence. We expect, the holidays are upon us here. We don't think, I'll speak for myself, I don't think it's reasonable for us to have anybody attempt to try to draft questions prior to Christmas and have them sent out. I'd prefer to make the deadline for written post-hearing requests due after the New Year's. Let me find my 22 calendar here. 21 is out of practice here. Does anybody have any objection to the deadline for written requests being filed? Let's see here. Filed into the record on January the 7th.
We have no objection, Your Honor.
That works for staff, Your Honor.
Okay. And I think a few of them will be coming to you, Mr. Watson, and a few it sounds like will be coming from you. We have the other hearing set in this matter, I believe, on February the 8th.
That was my next point, Your Honor. I think that might need to be shifted or flexed or The immediacy with which we approached this body appears to have been overtaken by events. So we don't have any objection to moving that date. Convenience of the commission that.
Yeah, I guess before we get to the hearing, my hope would be that we can have the responses to those initial requests back by January the 24th. That'd be 2 weeks plus a weekend. Does anybody have an objection to that?
None, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Ms.
Your Honor,
Koenig?
could I clarify, will Carlisle be responding to that first set of data requests?
Well,
in addition?
I'm getting to that next,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so the other thing, and I'll be very frank with you, Mr. Watson, you and your client, I think that the commission perceives the vast majority or all of the evidence that will be provided in response to those, I think they were November 9th data requests, to be necessary for it to be able to rule on the proposed increase, the proposed tariff that Carlisle has filed. And I'll speak for myself, but I suspect the pace at which we can find ourselves ruling on that tariff is dependent upon when we receive that evidence. So if following getting that evidence, I think that the commission will take a second look at either the necessity or the timing of that February hearing, given the evidence that we may have in the record at that time.
Message well received, Your Honor.
Okay. So we'll set the date in which those requests, the post-hearing request will be on January 7th to be responded to on January 14th. And then otherwise, Mr. Watson, we'll be looking for those responses to those November 9th data requests, hopefully in that interim. And again, we'll take under consideration that second hearing on February the 8th, given the record that we may have at that point. Mr. Talley, Mr. Rogers, do you all have any additional questions on this front?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, before you said January the 24th, this last time I believe you said January 14th.
That's my mistake. It's January the 7th and January the 24th. You're correct.
I'm happy.
And what we'll do to ensure it's already Friday at lunch, either by the end of the day today, or probably by midday on Monday, we will have an order that goes out that sets forth the timing for these post-hearing data requests and the responses to the requests. Okay. Is there anything, Mr. Rogers, that you have?
No, sir.
Mr. Watson, anything else?
I would just like to request the indulgence of the commission and the other council for not being familiar with how these things work. On behalf of both the city and myself, apologize for any awkwardness with which this has been conducted. We're pedaling as fast as we can, and I hope to be able to get you that data just as quickly as we can. I would like to know whether or not we did provide an electronic format of all of those most recent audits. I thought I emailed that maybe to Ms. Koenig. I'm not sure about that point. It may not have made it into the record.
So what we'll do as a follow-up, I think we can ensure that our staff's post-hearing data requests, if we don't have them, will seek that if we don't have them, that you file that as a PDF in response to these post-hearing data requests on the 24th.
Fair enough, sir.
And Mr. Young, I can tell, is taking notes to make sure that we do ask for that. All right. Is there anything else that we need to take under consideration before adjourning? All right. Hearing nothing, thank you all for your time today, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you. And all the other commissioners and council.